1 was a statement. Blake Snell silenced the Reds. The offense exploded for 5 home runs, and yet somehow we still had a few nervous moments late, courtesy of the bullpen.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It's time for Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're breaking down a, no pun intended, wild Game 1 as the Dodgers jump out in front of the Reds, powered by Blake Snell's dominance on the mound and a home run parade led by Shohei Ohtani and Teoscar Hernandez. The bats delivered. The starting pitcher delivered. The bullpen, not so much. And we got some roster decisions that have us scratching our heads, Travis.
Yeah, Harry, I don't know if I can do this for 4 rounds. Not with that bullpen. It was a lot, but I'm excited to talk about it.
We're talking about this and more in today's episode, which is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off of your first purchase. He's Travis Rodgers. I'm Harry Ruiz, 2 guys who talk sports for a living and bleed Dodger blue for life. You can get more Travis on 710 ESPN LA or the world-famous ESPN LA app from 3 to 6 p.m. with the Travis and DeMarco Show. As for me, I'm the Spanish play-by-play broadcaster for the USC Football Trojans and the Las Vegas Raiders, but nothing beats jumping on the mic every weekday morning and diving deep into what I love most, talking Dodger baseball with you. And we want you to be a part of our show. Once tonight's games is over, hit us up on the Locked On Dodgers listener line, 279-3-LOCKED or 279-356-2533. Wait until the game ends and then send us your voicemail, your text, and you might end up being featured in our show. All right, Blake Snell showed up. The lefty, he gave the Dodgers exactly what they needed in Game 1. Absolute dominance. The Reds looked lost. Snell was fantastic. He finished with 9 strikeouts, and here's the kicker. He did it efficiently. It wasn't until he got over 80 pitches in the 7th where it started looking funky, but even then, the hit over to left field, you felt that Max Muncy could have done a little extra. The double play where Ellie De La Cruz just beat it out. If the throw had been earlier or if Ellie De La Cruz wouldn't have been as fast, that would have been a double play, no earned runs. It was fantastic from Blake Snell. That's what the Dodgers wanted when they gave him a 5-year, $102 million deal. Games like this, Travis.
Yeah, he was as good as you could possibly hope for. Like you said, he was the definition of an ace in every possible way, maybe with the exception of not finishing the game, which, quite frankly, I know we're going to talk about this coming up. He may have to moving forward. But no, this is why you have him here. This is why you give him all that money, because not only was he really good, but he was incredibly competitive. And the everydayers know how much I value that, how much I value guys that attack in big moments, that are not passive, that are incredibly aggressive. And I thought he was. I thought the Reds did, I'm happy it went this way, but I thought the Reds did a bad job. They were hacking on him early. We saw it last night. The Dodger bullpen is an absolute catastrophe. Why are you giving him 3 and 4? And, I think he had 6 pitches after the first inning. That is was it 7? Yeah, 7 pitches.
7 in the first, 16 through 2 innings.
Yeah, that's just really dumb. The way that you get a guy like Snell out of the game is to get that pitch count really high. Blake Snell walks some guys. He's not the most efficient pitcher in the world. He's one of the best pitchers, but he doesn't just fill up. He's not Tarek Skubal just pounding strike after strike after strike. He throws some balls, and that they did not use that to their advantage, I thought was questionable. But he was absolutely terrific. And this is not Monday morning quarterbacking. I said it at the time. I would have sent him back out there for the 8th inning. He's not going to have to pitch again until probably game 2 or 3 of the DS, assuming they can win one of these next 2 games. That's plenty of time to get right again. The bullpen scares the living daylights out of me, but he was really good. You could tell he started to labor towards the end. And under any normal circumstances, I think they took him out at exactly the right time, but these are not normal circumstances.
We can look at him as a similar situation as Yoshinobu Yamamoto last year, where
Yeah.
Yoshi wasn't available most of the regular season, but then he comes in the postseason, and it's like, man, the switch flips, and you're able to get one of the best pitchers in baseball on the mound for when you need him the most in October. It happened last year with Yoshi. This year, I think Snell had 11 starts, which is a career low for him due to injuries. But man, when you look at him on that mound in the postseason, his experience isn't as much as you would want it to be, but he has been in the playoffs before. He played against the Dodgers in the World Series where he got the hook by Kevin Cash over in Tampa Bay. Over here right now, you're going to have him out there as long as possible. I was texting some of my buddies. I was like, man, he's going to go 8. And then after 4, I was like, he might go 9. In the 7th, it started getting funky, and I was like, okay, maybe just 7. And look, we got a big lead. We're going to be in a good situation, and we're going to talk about the bullpen in the next segment. But if a starter can give you 7 innings, you should be in a good spot as a team. And Blake Snell, he was able to do that for the Dodgers yesterday.
Yeah, he really did. This is why the whole regular season was kind of a, okay. It's fun to watch the games night after night, and you look for trends, and you look for things that are good, and you look for things that are concerning. But this was all right, let's see what the Dodgers look like when they play their first playoff game. Their starting pitching was extraordinary. Their offense was extraordinary. So 2 of the 3 boxes that you need to check, I thought were really, really good. He did exactly what you would want your guy to do. Go deep into the game, never really had any trouble, give him lots of support so he can continue to attack the strike zone. It was a great effort by him, and they're going to need a lot more of, if they're going to go back to the World Series, if they're going to get close to winning another title, that's going to have to be kind of the norm, right? They just aren't enough arms to cover the back end of that game, and we got a really good look at it last night.
Hey, now about those bats.
Yeah.
Wow. The Dodgers lineup, they were relentless. They were fantastic. 5 home runs total, 2 from Shohei when he looked like he was at batting practice during this game. 2 absolute rockets from Teoscar Hernandez that you knew they were bombs right after he hit the ball with the bat. And then a solo shot from Tommy Edman to keep the train rolling, going back-to-back with Teoscar Hernandez after the first one. Man, it was incredible. The Dodgers had an 8-0 lead early in this game through 6 innings. By the middle innings, this wasn't a game anymore. It was a showcase for the boys in blue where Travis, it was like, okay, this is what you can get out of the Dodgers. The crowd, it was electric. It was October. It was Dodger baseball at Chavez Ravine. And now my question was this because you're going against a team like the Cincinnati Reds, or do you see them replicating it potentially against the Philadelphia Phillies in the NLDS?
Yeah, I think they can. I mean, Hunter Green's a really good pitcher, and they pounded him. They absolutely pounded one of the best pitchers in the National League. And I get it. They're going to have to do it to more guys along the way. But let's go to Shohei for a second. That his ability to meet the moment is unlike very few athletes I've ever seen. I mean, the list is really, really small. The list is Tiger Woods. The list is Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, and Michael Jordan. There just aren't many guys that when, hey, look, something good's got to happen right here. And they seem to always deliver. I mean, what an incredible way to start the game where he hits a home run to lead it off. And it just let everybody go, okay. The way that the inferior of the 2 teams, in this case the Reds, win these games is get it late into the game where nobody has scored. Maybe it's 1-0 or 1-1, and the game's really tense and it's really tight, and the pressure starts to build on the favorite, and that would be the Dodgers in this case. And Shohei just basically took it off the table, 1 batter into the game. Like, I got this. I'm going to go do my thing. Teo, obviously, big night for him. If he gets even, kind of close to hot, forget about it. Tommy Edman, like you mentioned, big swing from him. But, Freddie had a double. He's just kind of right on down the line of everybody last night. It felt like everybody contributed offensively. It's a really good sign that they're swinging the bats the way that they are, because I don't know if they're going to need 10 every night like they got last night, but they're going to need 6. They're going to need 7. And it looks like they might be able to get 6 or 7. And the stars are always going to hit, right? Mookie, Freddie, and Show are always going to perform at star levels or close to it. And you just kind of accept that to be true. It's that next group of guys. It's Teoscar, it's Muncy, it's It's
Edman.
Edman. It's Will Smith when he comes
Kike.
back. Kike got a couple of hits last night too. If those guys are good, they got a very good chance, assuming they can figure out the pitching.
When you end up with 15 hits, 10 runs, 5 home runs, those are games that you're going to pretty much win every single time that you're out there. And look, this is how you want to start a postseason series. Your ace looking like an ace, your stars hitting bombs, and your fans walking out of Dodger Stadium feeling like this team is on a mission. Plus, the Dodgers won game 1 of the wild card round. Since the shift to the way that the wild card has been played since 2022, every single team that has won game 1 of the wild card round has advanced to the NLDS. So even the numbers are in the Dodgers' favor. But not everything was smooth sailing. What should have been a cruise control win turned into a reminder that nothing is safe with this bullpen. Next on Locked On Dodgers, did this game show us LA can't trust the relievers in October?
There's nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but actually getting the tickets, that can be the tough part, right? Queues, login screens, surprise fees, forget those. It takes the fun out of all of it, right? That's why I like to use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Game Time is fast, easy, and backed by the Game Time guarantee. You will always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, and this is my favorite part about Game Time, all fees are included. So the price you see is the price you pay. The app makes it super simple. You can see the exact view from your seat before buying, right? I love that about it, but I got to tell you, man, that all the fees included up front, you know what you're going to pay. How many times have you gone through and like, okay, wait, what? Where did that number come from? Never at Game Time. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB, Locked On MLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally, feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. After I joined Monarch Money, I was shocked to see how many subscriptions I had, and also, all that takeout, it definitely stacked up. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONMLB. Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. We were posting a lot of content throughout the day yesterday, so check it out. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rodgers on X and Instagram. Meanwhile, I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and at Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. All right, here's where Dodgers fans start reaching for the heartburn medicine, the bullpen. Snell leaves after 7. The Dodgers are up 10-2 by the time the relievers come in. And we're thinking, no sweat, right? Wrong. The relief crew came in and instantly started making things stressful. Alex Vesia faces 3 players. Single, ground out, walk. 22 pitches, hook. Edgardo Henriquez, incapable of getting a single out. 1 hit, 2 walks, 1 earned run. Jack Dreyer comes in, walks in a run, then gets help from Tyler Stevenson, swinging at multiple balls out of the zone, including a swinging strikeout with the bases loaded for the second out of the inning. I mean, 1 inning, 1 huge headache, where after entering the game with an 8-run deficit, or entering the frame with an 8-run deficit, the Reds got the game time run onto the on-deck circle, with the Dodgers not being able to find the zone, Travis. Dave Roberts shouldn't trust anyone who's a reliever out of that bullpen the rest of the way.
It took the shine off of what should have been a great opening act, and I think made every Dodger fan realize that to get through 13 or 12 more wins, I don't know, man. I'm hopeful that they can somehow find a way to do it, but I'm not optimistic, because that was a catastrophe. The only redeeming quality is that they didn't lose the game, which I know is a big deal. I think Edgardo Henriquez pitched himself off this roster for the rest of the playoffs. I just don't think you can do that again. You can't walk people. You cannot walk people in that situation. You can't walk people in a tight game, and you really can't walk people when you have a nice big lead, because the only way they're going to get back into it is with walks or errors, and then somebody runs into a home run. He was dreadful. It wasn't just, not very good. It was so bad, I think he pitched himself off this roster for good. You cannot use him again, because, Harry, think about it. They had an 8-run lead. If you can't use a guy when you have an 8-run lead, what's he doing on the team? I think he's done. It was a 0 out of 10 by Edgardo Henriquez. Vezina wasn't much better. This is a guy that's been around the block a few times, and that he was as bad as he was. Again, with a walk, you can't walk people. And I like what you said. Dreyer got nothing but lucky. He got lucky that guy kept swinging at bad pitches. He threw him 9 balls, and somehow he struck out. That if that was anybody that had and by the way, they were swinging, up in the count. These were terrible at bats by the Reds. That the Phillies, they're not going to do that. The Cubs, the Brewers, the Padres, whoever they might run into at some point, they're not going to have terrible at-bats like that. It was a massive setback. I thought that the second that Vezina went south, they needed to get Sheehan or Glasnow up and get in that game and stop messing around with this, because you don't know what's coming out of there. It was a catastrophe for the bullpen. They're 0 stars out of 10. It was a disaster for those guys. Blake Trinan was much better. He looked like he could be, let's roll it back again. But it was a massive setback for the Dodgers, because what should have been a celebration of, hey, look, we got a great starter. We got a great offense. The bullpen at least got to the finish line. It was man, I don't know how you're going to – because you're going to have to use somebody at some point. You can't use 6 guys for 4 rounds of the playoffs. And Henriquez, Dreyer, and Vezina showed that you can't trust those guys at all anymore. It was incredibly disappointing.
I'm shocked Tito Francona didn't get to the top step of the dugout and just yelled, "Don't swing that bat. Put it on your shoulder. Don't move it. They're not hitting the strike zone. Why the heck are you swinging at bad pitches?"
That's the point, Harry. They weren't borderline pitches. They weren't close. They were not close. They were in the dirt. They were over the letters. They were terrible attempts at strikes. And if I were a Reds fan, I would have been losing my mind watching that guy swing at those pitches over and over and over again, because he walked him twice. He just wouldn't let him do it. He just kept swinging the bat. Thrilled it went that way, but yeah, Henriquez and look, Dreyer got out of that inning, but he was just as bad. He got lucky. He Henriquez created his own problems and didn't get lucky, but Dreyer was lucky, and Vezina, I think was one of the
batters 22 pitches. Come on.
And I think that speaks to something too, Harry, that Roberts was so quick to go get Vezina. And again, he should have. I'm not saying that it was the wrong decision, but 3 batters with a massive lead, it's like, no, we're not doing this, because he knew what else is out there. He knew that Vezina wasn't going to figure it out. He knew that the parade of arms that were going to come in could continue to be as bad as Vezina was, that you can tell how quickly he's moving, because he knows those guys are a huge problem. And I know it's not perfect, but you're going to have to see Glasnow and Sheehan and Kershaw and Sasaki just over and over and over and over again, because those other guys just simply can't go in the game anymore.
I felt that yesterday's game was a perfect situation for Justin Robleski. Just put Robleski out there, 2 innings, he'll get through them. The Dodgers are up by 8. If he allows a run or two, it doesn't matter. You're good. But I also understand why he put Alex Vesia out there. Let's get his swag back. Let's get him feeling himself. We're up by 8. What's the worst thing that could happen? And yesterday it was a terrible 8th inning, and the worst thing that could happen was an 8-run win became a 5-run win, and that now we're talking about the bullpen. So even in the worst case scenario, the Dodgers still won game 1. Now the worst thing that could happen is that the Reds are starting to feel themselves. The Reds are starting to get confidence, and going into game 2, they might be a better team than they were before the 8th inning at Dodger Stadium in game 1 of the wild card.
Yeah, it was the Dodgers. It sounds so weird to say in the game you win by 5 runs, a game that you had an 8-run lead in the 8th inning, and it just to be as unsatisfied as it was. But if the Reds had a better approach, if the Reds were more patient, they were one swing of the bat away from making that a really close game. You could see it when they were cutting around Dodger Stadium and showing the fans, like everybody's kind of looking at each other like, hey, what's going on here? And the craziest part about it, Harry, it wasn't a surprise that this is almost exactly what you expected those guys to do. I agree with you on Vesia that I think it was hey, let's see if we can get his mojo back, because Vesia pitches with a great deal of emotion. He's very competitive, which I like. But all of a sudden, he can't find the strike zone. And you cannot use guys that are not throwing the ball. Blake Trinan threw a bunch of pitches 84 miles an hour last night. But you know what they were? They were over the strike. They were in the strike zone. They were strikes. They played.
You're up by 8.
Yes.
Just throw a strike.
Yeah, it was rough. It was really, really rough. I guess the silver lining is that Trinan did look pretty good, and he had a pretty clean inning. But boy, oh boy. I mean, what should have been a, hey, man, we're on to something here. Look at those bats was I don't know about that bullpen. It was a huge missed opportunity.
Yeah, so a win is a win.
Yeah.
But there's work to do in the pen before this team can feel bulletproof. And I feel that won't happen until Sheehan, Kershaw, Sasaki are the players coming out of the pen. And finally, the roster.
Yeah.
Some names we're missing. Some surprising inclusions. And what do we make of Anthony Banda being left off of the wild card round? And Michael Conforto suddenly gets the boot after 6 brutal months. Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, we'll dig into these decisions.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you do not want to miss, because right now, new customers, you can bet just $5, and you're going to get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app, right? I love how FanDuel has so many different ways to play, right? You can build parlays, you can try player props, and you can even follow the live lines during the games, and you get that little feeling like you know something's going to happen. Jump on it. FanDuel's got you covered. All of that. So whether you're a casual fan or you love getting into the nitty gritty, diving into all those stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better, right? And oh, by the way, football is a great way to do FanDuel. All sorts of baseball. The NBA's right around the corner. You like it, FanDuel. They pretty much have everything that you could be looking for. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started.
Thanks for making us your first listen wherever you may be tuning in, either on your favorite podcast app or our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. The numbers keep rising, so help us out. Smash that notification bell so you never miss a beat. Full episodes, hot takes, breaking Dodgers news, and the Dodgers postcast show with Pete Fox live after the final out of every game. If it drops, you're on it. That's how you become an everydayer here on Locked On Dodgers. Now, let's finish today's show by talking roster decisions, because honestly, they're fascinating, both good and bad. The Dodgers only needed to set this 26-man roster for at most 3 games, hopefully just 2. And even with that short window, we got some surprises. LA decided to only have 11 full-time pitchers, including 4 lefty relievers, but none of them is Anthony Banda, one of the most consistent relievers for the Dodgers this year, Travis. And this decision, if it's not injury related, I sincerely don't understand it at all.
Yeah, he had been not very reliable in the second half of the season either. And I think it just speaks to how limited the options that the Dodgers have. I wasn't surprised to see him left off the roster. He had not pitched well in a very long time there. Dreyer had kind of felt like he'd taken that particular role. I thought that the case that Banda would have would be that he had been through it before, that he had pitched in important games for the Dodgers a year ago. He was part of their World Series run last year. But I think it's a perfect illustration of how few good options they have, that there isn't anybody that Dave Roberts feels particularly good about other than Kershaw, Sheehan, and Sasaki at this point, that he got left off. I think, put it to you this way, I think he'll be back on in the next round, because I think Henriquez just, signed his own, see you later certificate out of town. I don't think Vezia gets left off the roster. I think you're going to have to find a way to keep him around. But I think he slides right into Henriquez's spot after what we saw last night, assuming they advance. But I wasn't shocked to see him left off the roster.
So also, Travis, I was in the same frame of mind. I was like, well, he hasn't been as good as of late. But then I went over and looked at his numbers. Since mid-July, he has pitched 23 and 2/3 innings, 4 earned runs in that span. That's an ERA of 1.52. That's our. I was like, well, I didn't feel he was pitching that good, but maybe he was. And when I look over at the roster construction, I was like, really, you couldn't get one spot in that bullpen for Anthony Banda? I feel that could have been a good spot for him. And now going to the biggest shocker of them all, in my opinion, because after 6 months of banging the table, 162 games of being like, cut Michael Conforto, he doesn't deserve to be on that roster, being one of the weakest bats in Dodgers history. No, the front office kept him there. The manager kept him there. Dave Roberts saying he's one of his favorite guys. Conforto suddenly not there. He wasn't on the roster. Like, what took this team so long? Why wait until October to say, hey, maybe this guy can't hit? I mean, I'm happy that he's not on the postseason roster for the wild card round, but why the beep? Wait until now?
Yeah, I don't know. I would love to offer an explanation as to why now was the time they finally did the thing that Dodger fans have been jumping up and down for the last several months. Let me make a very half-hearted attempt to try to figure out what this was. That defense becomes more important in the postseason than it does during the regular season. You're going to choose offense over defense. 162 games. You want guys that can produce runs. And as awful as Michael Conforto was offensively, that maybe they thought that he was a better offensive option, a left-handed bat, as opposed to Alex Call or Justin Dean, the guys that they ultimately decided to keep. And then in a short series where you need a defensive replacement like Dean, who, by the way, did not catch that ball last night, but that's a whole nother issue, that they said, we don't need one extra bat. We need an extra pair of legs in Dean. We need a better glove in Call. So maybe that's why they did it. But yeah, I wasn't surprised, but I also was confused, because why now? Why run this out for 6 months and then, okay, this is what a time it really matters. Okay, you're not on the team anymore. It was peculiar, to say the least.
Yeah, right now the Dodgers know that they can't afford automatic outs in October, but every plate appearance that Michael Conforto had earlier in the season, where he was pretty much an automatic out, why not give one of your prospects like Ryan Ward, who had a fantastic year in the minor leagues, give him those outs. If it's going to be an out, at least have it for a guy who could be something in the future, instead of Michael Conforto, who, now that October is here, you're not even going to use him. So that's just baffling to me right there.
I'll put it this way. I hope not, but I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Conforto were back on the roster for the next round. I really wouldn't. I think that over the course of a 5-game series, which the next round is, if they get there, offense becomes a little more important than the defense. You get into a 7-game series, and having a left-handed bat off the bench becomes an option that, Justin Dean's only had 2 at-bats all season long. Like, that's just not how he rolls. So I think this is a short time. I don't get too comfortable, Harry, because I think Michael Conforto might be a part of your life if the Dodgers could get out of this round.
The Phillies got great left-handed pitchers. Why even have Conforto there as an option? I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that was the end of
3
Michael
catchers,
Conforto.
too.
Sorry?
They've carried 3 catchers, too. So,
With
I don't
that,
know.
I kind of understand Will Smith, and I said it in one of our shorts yesterday on our social media pages. If you need him as a pinch hitter, he'll be there. And if you need him as a pinch hitter against the Cincinnati Reds in the wild card, you're in trouble. So it's better to have that right there as a break in case of emergency scenario.
Yeah, I guess I know that's the logic of, okay, a big at bat comes up in an important spot, and instead of having Rortvet take the at bat, you put Smith in to take the at bat, and then Rushing goes in to finish the game behind the plate. But having a guy on your right for 1AB, and I get it. So I'm a huge Will Smith fan. I'm glad that he's getting closer. Hopefully we get to see him catch tonight. I know that Dave Roberts was saying that that's at least a possibility. So we'll see. But the 3-game series is weird because obviously it's going to be very different if they can get to the divisional round. Clayton Kershaw comes back onto the roster. That takes somebody else's spot along the way. I think Henriquez is probably gone. I think that we'll see what else happens, but that a 3-game series is weird because you can do some stuff that you wouldn't do over the course of 7 games.
And one of those is James Dean being on this roster. Like, what? Literally, a guy that you said 2 at-bats all season long. He's here specifically for his glove. And he ended up botching his chance in the 9th inning, overrunning a ball at center field. So I'd be shocked if he's on the roster for the next round. But look, the Dodgers, they have depth.
Can he pitch? Can Dean pitch? That throw in the home last night from Pajas in center field, I'm like, I don't know. Let's put old Andy on the mound and see what he's got, because that thing came in there at about 100 miles an hour, and it was just as close to the strike zone as anything Henriquez threw. So let's see if Pajas can do it.
We've seen Miguel Rojas and we've seen Kike Hernandez pitch too. So use those guys. And right before we say goodbye, Tommy Edman, when the lead got good for the Dodgers, they took him off of his feet. Something that I think we just got to observe, taking care of that ankle. Kike Hernandez, his back stiffed up a little bit, but Dave Roberts said that he's going to be on the starting lineup today. So just two situations that we just got to keep an eye on, because you never know how good or bad they could be. All right. That'll do it for today's episode of Locked On Dodgers. If you're still craving more baseball talk, have the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night be your second listen. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find it on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back on Thursday with either the Dodgers completing their 2-game sweep of the Reds or Cincinnati forcing a winner takes all Game 3 in the wild card. Are you fearful that that's a possibility, Travis, or is Yoshinobu Yamamoto just going to completely take over this game and have his first complete game shutout potentially in the playoffs?
I think the Dodgers close the show tonight. They're the better team. They've got the better pitcher going. It's at Dodger Stadium. Their bats are clearly feeling pretty good. The only thing that makes you go, I don't know, is that bullpen. But unless you get another game like last night where they have an 8-9 run lead, I think you're going to see Yamamoto straight into Sheehan or Glasnow or Sasaki to end this. I don't think you're going to see any of those other guys in the game tonight if the Dodgers have a chance to close it up.
Hopefully that's the case, and we don't have any stress to deal with until the next round of the playoffs. We appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it Dodger Blue.